Today's show is brought to you by Squad QL. Want an unfair advantage to dominate your fantasy football league? Well, look no further than Squad QL, the only mobile app you need to crush your friends and rivals this year. Squad QL recommends the best starting lineup for each week based on your starters, bench players, and free agent pool. Head to squadql.com to download the app for free. Again, that's squadql.com to download the app for free.
Hey, this is Willie Snead with the New Orleans Saints, and you're listening to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the Play Draft Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
What's up, Foot Clan? What's going on?
Oh, week 4 is here. We got football tonight. I'm excited.
It's going to be a great show. We have starts of the week.
You trying something new over there?
I don't know.
It didn't work. I love you.
Starts of the week are still my favorite segment of the entire week. So we've got starts of the week on the show today. Jason's boom boom kicker.
Oh,
Hey, man, I liked it. I like that he's trying something new.
Yeah, oh, right. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate
New things don't always work. I throw 100 new things out every day. Maybe one of them sticks, but that one of them makes it worth it.
Like that haircut.
Yeah, speaking of haircut, I'm getting a haircut tomorrow, fellas.
I was going to say,
breaking news.
That thing is
I'm very overgrown at the moment.
Yeah, if you want to check out that truth, go to youtube.com/fantasyfootball.
And yet my hair is...
Did you forget the URL
was it
for a
the
second?
Fantasy Footballers, or is it just /Fantasy Footballers? I can't remember.
On the YouTube?
Yeah, on the YouTubes.
Try both.
Good answer. Good answer. Good answer.
One
All
of
right.
them will work.
Check this out. Quick question for the show today. Last year, so 2016, of the top 12 running backs, 3 were not in the top 45 through weeks 1 through 3. Isn't that incredible?
That is.
Lev Bell, Jordan Howard, and Jay Ajayi were all outside the top 45 as we headed into week 4, which we're doing right now. And my question is two-part. One, we haven't talked about Doug Martin in a while, and Doug Martin is scheduled to return next week, not this week. Don't put him in your lineup. Next week. So this is the final Jaquiz Rodgers by himself. You've kind of had one good, one bad game. But can Doug Martin be one of those guys that he misses these first 3 weeks, ends up in the top 12? And if it's not him, do you have any other names, somebody that might fall into that category? But speak to Doug Martin first, because I've seen a lot of questions from people on Twitter. They want to know how much they can basically lean on Doug Martin from here on out.
Yeah, I actually like Doug Martin a lot. Him going to be a RB1, if you're talking on the entire season. If he were going to become at the end of the season on the whole an RB1, I think it's going to be difficult this year because of the incoming rookie class. There's just too many, new guys, fresh meat that I think are going to end up in the top 12. The Leonard Fournette, Joe Mixon, Christian McCaffrey has that chance. Dalvin Cook, Kareem Hunt. It's an incredible rookie class. So that's going to make it hard for Doug Martin to finish as an RB1, missing the first 3 weeks. But I think from here on out, he will be an RB1, and I would be willing to go trade for him right now. It's hard to trade for a guy that was drafted, and then
especially at this point.
That's what I mean when you held him. But my tip to you, if you're in a league where you wish you could, go and look at the Doug Martin owner's team and look at his record. Because if he's 0-3, then he needs a win. He needs a win this week, and Doug Martin's not helping him. And you could say, look, I know you held on to him, but if you go 0-4, you're not making the playoffs, which is not true, but you can, you can tell him that.
You got to use leverage.
You got to use your leverage, and then try to help their team. Look and go, this player from my team would actually help him get a win this week, because that will actually facilitate a trade happening, and then steal yourself some Doug Martin.
I also recommend Jaquiz Rodgers owners maybe look at if you can get a more permanent running back from the Doug Martin owner at this point where that person can play Quiz this week and then transition into Doug Martin.
It's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea. If I look at the top 12 running backs right now, I'm fairly certain that I don't think Chris Thompson or Tariq Cohen end up in that top 12 at the end of the year, especially with currently Zeke Lev Bell, LaShawn McCoy, all outside of it right now, DeMarco Murray. But because of those names right now being outside of that top 12, I do agree with Jason. I don't think Doug Martin will end up inside the top 12 at the end of the year. I do think it's possible, no doubt. But, yeah, I would vote that he'll be very good, very serviceable.
I guess that's the real question.
Borderline one, but not quite a.
Is he going to be really good or really bad? Because those are the only two things Doug Martin chooses to do.
Yes. I think he'll be very good. And I actually, there's two answers, right? Because there's one, this question says, is he going to end up in the top 12 at the end of the year? That doesn't mean that he's not a top 12 running back the rest of the season.
Right.
Right? Because if he does that, it doesn't mean he catches up to these guys.
He probably would, though.
So, Mike, as the resident anti-Doug Martin guy,
I do not think he will end up as a running back 1. He can be a serviceable running back 2. He will get the volume. So, yeah, I wouldn't try necessarily. You know what? I would try and trade for him if I can get him cheap, but I don't think that's possibly happening. And the guy I'll throw out there who's not in the top 45, who could end up in the top 12 this year, Jay Ajayi.
Yep. You do it back-to-back years. I looked that up as well. But in half point, he was.
So one bad game.
He was the RB40.
One bad game and one bye week. That bye week cheats your entire argument.
It still counts.
Yep.
I mean, Lev Bell was suspended.
Wins
still
the win,
counts.
Man. All right.
Good answer. Good answer.
Are we on Prices Right?
What? Isn't that Family Feud?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is.
There we go.
Get your game shows correct.
But you guys got to chime in with me. You know?
Good answer.
It can be the worst answer, but
yeah, it doesn't
good
matter.
Answer.
It doesn't matter.
I mean,
and then you got to clap.
The thing is, for Ajayi and Howard, that was opportunity appeared for both of them. Ajayi was not the starter coming in. Howard was not the starter. So if you're trying to find those guys, it's going to be someone who gets an opportunity like Deontay Foreman or someone like that.
Or even, I mean, I know the talent isn't there, but the opportunity could be there for Wendell Smallwood.
Sure.
Survey says.
Bad answer.
Bad answer.
No, he was one of the names I thought of. It just, if he can get volume and he becomes the passing downs guy, it could happen.
And an angel comes down and touches him on the shoulder and makes him exceptionally talented. All right, listen, we've got a long way to go on the show. We have the fantasy forecast, starts of the week, as I said. I do want to remind you, there are articles coming out on the website every single day, and if you just can't get enough fantasy football, you can go over there to thefantasyfootballers.com. There's a snap count observation article that comes out every week by Marcus Meany. Great article, Target Report articles. You can kind of just dig deeper and get some perspective on the season thus far. I've got a bunch of tweets going out today that are going to help give you the basically stats through week 3 on a number of different areas.
Yeah, and I will say this. I think Thursday is my favorite day of the week for articles on the website because the three staples of the Target Report, the snap count observations, and also the decoding the top 12 quarterbacks, those are 3 articles that you really do want to read. They're solid work.
You can find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. And you can find us on YouTube, the Fantasy Sports Network. We're on jointhefoot.com. That's our community. On Facebook, Instagram, everywhere.
If you want really long, elaborate tweets, then check out at FF Hitman, who's part of the 280 Club.
The 280. All right, let's explain this. Mike.
There's no explanation needed. I'm in the 280 Club, and you aren't.
How do we know it's really you that's in the 280 Club?
You'll never know.
So, Mike,
or you can just peek over my shoulder as I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Somebody out there in the world recognized how long-winded Mike is and offered him
darn right
the ability to tweet at greater lengths than we can. And honestly, Brooks, I mean, you've got to be with me and Jason just completely jealous, bent out of shape.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like a sad man. Losing sleep. You hear that?
Well, here's the thing though: is I'm in the club. Right.
Sure.
You guys aren't in. I won't let you in.
The bouncer. The bouncer's outside.
I went to jokingly go hashtag 280 Club. That hashtag already existed. So there's other people out there who are as petty as I am.
Let me just ask you this. Twitter comes to you and says, Mike, I will give you the blue check mark for your 280. Which one you taking?
The trade.
The man of the people has to explain his situation with the 280.
You're taking that blue check mark and you know it.
280 characters of apologizing for not having – All right, hey, by the way, the rankings, the Week 4 rankings, initial rankings, up on the website, thefantasyfootballers.com as well. Let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
Seemed like a little louder than normal.
A little bit.
The news is louder today.
Big news day.
What do you make of this? I want to know your thoughts on this story. So, Dr. David Chow, which is at Pro Football Doc, and he gets interviewed a lot.
He is a great follow.
He is a great follow.
He's an orthopedic surgeon. He
was the leader of I forget which team, but he was
the Chargers. He was the Chargers.
And he breaks things down for fantasy football. I mean, he watches the games, and if he'll watch the injury and give his professional opinion on what happened.
I'm coming at it from the angle, however, because this news report came out yesterday from him, right? He's an independent doctor. He says he doesn't expect Andrew Luck back until November. Now, we did just get news that he's not practicing this week. How much do you believe that this is relevant news when you don't have a doctor connected to the Andrew Luck situation? You're getting a third-party opinion, mind you, a qualified one, but a third-party opinion on an injury that he's not intimately familiar with in terms of Andrew Luck himself. Do you buy into the fears that this is now a November timeline because we're not even in October yet? That is a long time away. Or do you kind of dismiss it? Because I lean the second side of that. I lean this is news because it's news, but it's not necessarily accurate.
The heart of the question that you're asking is really important because it's what is the source? Because not all news is made the same. And the issue here is the source is disconnected from Andrew Luck.
Some people are verified. Some people are unverified.
Right, exactly. But this is a really good source. He's been fairly accurate, and he does know his stuff. So I take it a little bit serious. You know, what he's talking about is he's going to have to be back at practice for a couple weeks before he gets in the game. That's his opinion, but it's probably right. And the fact that he hasn't started practice means that it will be October when he starts practicing. Now, will it be November? You know, I think he could get in the end of October. But now this is a far stretch from in the draft season when we thought we were going to have him week 1, or maybe he'd miss week 1, be there week 2. Now we're looking at, you know, what is this going to be, week 8?
Right, and he's saying, you know, this is what Andrew Luck actually needs. That doesn't necessarily mean that he will keep himself out of the game, because if he comes in and says, "Coach, put me in," they're going to put him in.
Yeah,
but look at Cam, right?
Look away.
He said he was ready. The team said he's ready by putting him in there, but Cam clearly could have used some more time to heal and get ready, but the season forced his hand to get in there. I mean, they're professional football players. They play through injury, whether it's helpful or hurt,
we already know that
the
Colts
team
don't necessarily do what Andrew Luck needs, like get him an offensive line.
Sure.
So, I don't know, but they're taking their time with him now.
Or a razor.
I think it would be insane to wait this long.
No, for
on
the neck.
Andrew Luck.
For the neck beard.
Yeah.
I think it would be insane to wait this long for Andrew Luck and then still rush him back.
I have a question too. Like, do the Colts a record over the next 2 or 3 weeks? Could that factor in him coming
They
back?
say it will not.
They're a bunch of liars.
Yeah.
All right. Randall Cobb removed from the injury report. Good news for Randall Cobb owners. He's going to play tonight against the Bears. Ty Montgomery also removed from the injury report, so we have that update for you for tonight's game.
I like Cobb.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there.
Cool.
I like Cobb
Cool.
tonight. I think he catches a lot of balls for a few yards. If you're in a full PPR, I'd
I
play
love
him.
Lamb.
I
All
love Lamb.
A lot of balls for a few yards. There you go.
Got it.
CJ Prosise, who had tests on his ankle earlier this week, not expected to play this week. Hint, that has to do with my start of the week, Chris Carson. I think he's going to have a really solid week against Indianapolis. There has been talk about essentially a rookie filling in for him, J.D. McKissick, and I doubt that role is very large. So I think it's a good week for Chris Carson. Corey Davis ruled out for week 4. Delanie Walker has a hamstring injury. He's day-to-day right now. Gio Bernard limited at Wednesday's practice, something to monitor. Us Joe Mixon owners would love to see him get a little bit more work in the passing game. Bernard's looked good to me. He's looked like Gio Bernard when he's been on the field. And then Will Fuller practicing in full for week 4.
He's expected to play.
I think that's one of those better news for Watson than it is for Fuller, for fantasy owners. And then a little update correction yesterday. Kelvin Benjamin did not, in fact, practice. We had said at the very end of the show he was practicing. The reason we said that is because he had come out to practice in his
his pads.
In his pads, and so he was at practice, but then he ended up
not practicing
and just basically on the stationary bike.
That's my favorite way to practice, honestly.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite way to work out.
Guys,
I go to the gym and I watch a movie on the stationary bike, but I do not pedal.
Well, but you put all the gym clothes on.
You darn right I do. I got to look good.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so
your active wear.
In your active wear.
Active wear.
Get my yoga pants on.
I want to see one of those, the Under Armour models that look like they're I want one that's like molded after you.
Oh, yeah.
Like the gray
Wait,
plastic.
are you talking like the punching dummies?
No.
I'm talking like you walk into a sports
like the mannequin
store, mannequin, and they're all cut.
But the Under Armour guys are just like
they're
jacked
extreme.
like cartoon characters.
Yeah, and they're in that gray mold. I want you molded.
Mold me.
All right, hey, tomorrow.
The follow-up on Kelvin is that he is practicing today, though.
Sure he is. Love Michael Keaton.
Don't forget, Mike is on Periscope with game day information and questions an hour before game time on Sunday, and we will have In and Out on the show tomorrow, which is kind of our final attempt at telling you who we think is going to start, who is going to sit for week number 4. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into week 4.
Fantasy Forecast.
All right. Just a quick reminder, make sure you, if you've got a Packer or a Bear, let's go ahead and take them out of your flex. Let's go ahead and make sure we put them in the actual locked-in position that they play so that you have more flexibility with your flex position, because once you play them tonight, they're locked. So why waste your flex, because you never know what's going to happen. Make sure you get them into the running back, wide receiver spot, whatever that might be. All right. The Saints, they travel to Miami to play the Dolphins. The Dolphins,
No, they travel to London.
Oh, yes, correct. Correct. They travel to London. I was thinking about the fact that Jason made a really good point yesterday when he was talking in the studio about the fact that Dolphins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, last week they both laid a huge egg. And that was actually their first week of preparing with limited time. Like, they had the bye in week 1. They had a long time to get ready. They both came out and played much better in week 1 than they did week 2. Now you have the variable of London to mix in.
2 than 3.
Their game 1.
Yeah, their game 1 and game 2. Now you're going to London. What do we expect to happen out of this game? It's a 49.5 point over-under. You saw a one-sided affair in London last week. The Jacksonville Jaguars dominated the Ravens. So lay it out for me. The Saints defense has allowed 26 points per game, second worst in the league. Do the Dolphins have a shot at putting up some big fantasy numbers?
Yes, they certainly do, but London is such a wild card of knowing how players are going to respond to the time zone change, to the start change. They're playing
the field at Wembley.
I mean, they're playing at a game time that their body never, ever does. So it's a difficult thing to really gauge what's going to happen, but just breaking down the actual matchup, I mean, you're talking there could be just an absolute boatload of points going up here. The Saints, Drew Brees got back on track last week. Willie Snead returns. That's a huge upgrade for their offense.
Their offensive line is also improved for this week due to health.
Adrian Peterson's a bit banged up, which improves the offense.
Mm-hmm. Get Mark Ingram that ball.
Yeah, get the best running back on the field. And Jay Cutler, I know it was bad last week, but Cutler against the Saints defense, I mean, everyone's been – well, Cam didn't, but the first couple weeks people have been torching those DBs, and Jarvis Landry and Parker. I mean, I'm expecting big days from both of them. Are you shying away from playing either of those guys, Jay?
I would shy away from playing either of those guys depending on my team and my matchup. Like you said, London is always a crapshoot. We see it year after year where sometimes a team comes out and they score 48 points and the other team comes out and scores 3. I mean, if you look back at the last 10 London games, there's 4 times where it's just been an absolute boat race. And so I think you're taking a little bit more risk, but you also have the reality that your guy could be on the team that just blows up because the other team didn't show up. I love Drew Brees in this game. I think that he is – I know it's an extreme road game, but the the matchup, the corners, and his
You're
offense.
playing Thomas, right? He's an auto play.
Michael Thomas, I'm playing. Drew Brees, I'm playing. I'm still probably avoiding the running back situation for the Saints until clarity comes.
What if Peterson's actually out?
I actually think Ingram is a start. I mean, I would
regardless.
I would play Ingram this week. This is a tale of two teams in this case, where the Saints, once again, they're second in the league in targets to the running back position. Ingram has got the majority of carries and he catches the ball, whereas Kamara scored last week, but it was on a rushing attempt and he wasn't that involved in the passing game. And we know that Peterson hasn't been that involved. On the other side, the Dolphins wide receivers have been targeted more than anybody in the league in terms of per game targets. Jay Cutler doesn't throw to the running back. Jay Cutler doesn't throw to the tight end. Jay Cutler is throwing to Landry and to Parker. And so kind of a different situation there. We're hoping that Jay Ajayi kind of gets off on the right foot now and has an opportunity against the Saints defense. And so I think that's the stuff you're looking at. And it's a bit of a crapshoot. I mean, nobody last week expected the Ravens defense to look the way they did. 3
touchdowns from Mercedes Lewis. I mean, the Jaguars, what did they put up in that game? Was it 48?
It was in the 40s.
They may not score that many points the rest of the season.
No.
I'm being hyperbolic,
I
man,
know.
but I'm just emphasizing a team.
But my Leonard Fournette.
Okay, but a team that does not score points put up almost 50 points.
Yeah. Can you trust Jay Ajayi after what he did last week?
I'm still plugging him in.
You're forced to.
I mean, I'm still playing everyone in this game.
Okay.
The regular starts from this game are going in for me. Stills, maybe if you need some juice in the flex spot. And, I mean, even Fleener and Julius Thomas, I don't know. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm okay playing both.
All right. Well, Mike is the crazy one. Well, let's move on to the Bills and the Falcons. Before we talk Bills-Falcons, I want to remind everybody about Draft. Draft is the app. You have to be playing it with us. It is a blast. You already know how to play because you play fantasy football. You draft teams. Here, you get to draft them every single week, put a little bit of money on the line, win some cash, gloat over your friends. We do it. Obviously, we do it every Friday on the show, and we make a lunch bet out of it on the side and get a little gloating going on. But Draft is awesome. The company itself, we know the owner, we know the guys there. They are an upstanding, awesome, fun company. They have taken DFS and they have made it extremely fun. You'll enjoy playing it. And like last week, I think
because they care about their players.
They do. They really care about the people enjoying the game. I think they refunded all the entries. If you had Golden Tate last week and lost by less than a touchdown, that touchdown that was kind of reversed at the last minute, they said, you know what? We're going to give you your entry fee credited back. And they've done this a couple times. So check them out. Use the promo code BALLERS, and you get to play a real money game for free. Just search Draft in your app store or go to draft.com/ballers.
Yeah, great company. We also have a brand new sponsor of the show today, and that is Upside, okay? It's business time.
Business time.
It's business time. Look, if you travel for business, look, you know that whole equation. Upside has the absolute best available prices for flights, hotels, rental cars. Here's one of the awesome perks, one of the wins of using Upside. They give you a gift card to places like Amazon.com every single time you buy a business trip. Here's another perk, another Upside play from Upside. They don't just give you 5-star treatment. This is 6-star treatment. There's an extra
That's
star.
impossible.
6-star treatment you get from their customer service specialist. Basically, they take care of you. They're called navigators. A recent Upside customer, they had a flight delayed by 2 hours, so the navigator arranged for them to have complimentary access to the airline's executive lounge during that delay time. That's the kind of treatment you get from Upside. That's the Upside advantage, and we're going to start your Upside treatment right now. That's 6-star treatment. Go to Upside.com, use our code FOOTBALLERS, and you'll get a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com. So that code is FOOTBALLERS for a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com when you buy your next business trip at Upside.com. Upside.com, you deserve a better business trip. Remember, minimum purchase is required. See the site for complete details. All right, let's talk about the Bills and the Falcons. Falcons 8-point favorites in this one at home, 48.5-point over-under. I was looking at the rushing attempts at the quarterback position this morning, and my conclusion was this. There is one rushing quarterback in the NFL. and his name is Tyrod Taylor. 7 more rushing attempts at the quarterback position than the second highest, which was Russell Wilson. We know Russell Wilson would prefer to pass, but that offensive line is forcing his hand at times. But Tyrod Taylor, he is genuinely a rushing quarterback that lifts the baseline up. We've talked about him. I am not a big fan of him in Atlanta this week just because of the home road splits for Tyrod Taylor and the lack of weapons in the passing game and the consistency we have not seen from them. I know you guys both feel pretty comfortable with Tyrod Taylor as a stream this week.
Yeah, I do, just because of the possibility for a high score. The Falcons offense is going to score. So I believe in Tyrod to keep pace.
Yeah, if Tyrod is going to be put in a position where he's going to have to pass the ball, he will run a lot because, like you said, Andy, the weapons aren't there. And if he's running on the Falcons, I mean, I hate this, but in fantasy football, rushing yardage for a quarterback is worth so much more than passing yards, and you're going to have a fine stream in him if the Falcons can score, and I think everyone expects them to be able to. You might say, well, the Buffalo defense has looked great this year.
Yeah, top 10 in rushing yards and passing yards allowed.
They are the second hardest to play against if you're going by fantasy points given up to the quarterback position. But that's just such a fake stat because week 1 they played Josh McCown, week 2 was Cam Newton, and week 3 was on the road Trevor Siemian. Okay, Cam and Siemian, maybe they're okay, but I just don't think they've really been tested by a team that could test them. And I'm not saying they're a bad defense, but I don't think they're this top 5 scary. Not that anyone's benching Matt Ryan.
So you're not benching Matt Ryan.
But my point is more on the Tyrod side. I think the Falcons will score, so Tyrod will have to do work.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of does he? And if he does, it'll work out for you. Does LeSean McCoy return to form this week?
Oof. I mean, the Falcons' run defense has been pretty solid.
9th in the league right now.
But
yes.
But Shady's volume is just so safe. I mean, these last 2 weeks you haven't gotten the explosion game that you want from LeSean McCoy, but he's still been very safe. And I know it doesn't feel like it, but go back and look how many points he's scoring. You go, oh, yeah, he's still fine. He's still fine. He's a weekly start.
Charles Clay, we talked about him as a stream candidate at tight end.
Yes.
If you flip to the other side, those of you that were excited about Austin Hooper's explosive week 1.
You talking about Austin Deucer?
Nope. Austin Hooper.
Yeah.
Austin Hooper, tight end for the Falcons.
We said at the beginning, you throw a lot of things out there.
Austin Deucer.
That one wasn't the one.
Can we
keep them coming? We'll find the one.
I mean, Austin Pooper is a lot.
No.
Yeah,
Austin Pooper is
I'm
right there.
I'm not even referring to poop. I'm talking about 2 targets a week, Austin Hooper.
Okay.
Or really has dual meaning then.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, that's fine. If you
It's like, it meant both.
If you want to get your mind in the gutter in that potty humor,
goodness.
then I'm above that. 280 Club is above that nonsense. But Austin Hooper, 2 targets every single week.
All right, so the Falcons' tight ends have been targeted only 7 times this year.
Which means I'm not playing Austin Hooper.
That's the worst in the league. That's what I was getting at there before we got sidetracked. Good call on the Pooper thing, Brooks, but if we can keep it above brow, that'd be nice.
Yeah, Brooks.
Brooks, I really appreciate
This is
that.
a high-class show.
I'm just jumping in with Mike.
We were all thinking it, though.
He's trying to get in the 280 Club. I know what he's doing.
Until our Monday Duds segment. Then.
Yeah, all right.
That's a fair point.
Dang it, Brooks.
We do have a poop segment on the show.
It's part of who we are.
It is. All right. Where do we go from here?
What about the running backs? Okay, so
the running backs are great.
You've got the second, in theory, the second hardest schedule as far as fantasy points against the running back with the Buffalo Bills.
You're not sitting DeVante Freeman. The discussion ends there. I mean,
so what about Tevin Coleman? Because I've started him in every week in one of my dynasty leagues.
I think Coleman's okay. I think you're going to need to pass through the air at times against Buffalo, and Coleman's been effective on limited touches again. Last week he was pretty good. I'm okay streaming or playing Coleman as a flex play this week. Freeman is basically leading the league in touchdowns per attempt in the sense that he's been hyper efficient in his utilization. Yep. So
what about Mohamed Sanu? And I know that you initially from the name value go but Mohamed Sanu's been a startable fantasy asset. 6 for 47 week 1, 5 for 85 week 2, only 4 for 28, but had a touchdown last week. I mean, on the season, he's he's right in the middle of those wide receiver threes, which that's a playable guy for fantasy. Are you willing to jump in with Sanu this week, or are you concerned because of the Bills' defense?
Well, let's give an example. J.J. Nelson's a player who's been boom and bust. Mohamed Sanu's been somebody who's got a 6, 7, 8 point baseline thus far. So who do you start? Isn't that a lot about your opponent? Do you need?
That's fair. He's
I don't
a
think Sanu's going to blow up for a 20-plus point game.
I don't like the Sanu type players because I like the safe, startable. Maybe they're not going to blow up, but they're going to have a high enough baseline. But Sanu's baseline, I think, is like 6 points on a normal week, whereas on a normal week, and obviously we're not just talking about these first 3 weeks, a Jarvis Landry type where maybe he doesn't blow up, but he usually has a high enough baseline in PPR leagues. I think that you've got a higher floor than some players in Mohamed Sanu, but it's not high enough.
Even
to
with
make me
Julio,
start him without the
Julio banged up.
If Julio's out, then
not he'll play.
Yeah,
but
he's banged up. Yeah,
he's always banged up. This is what he do.
All right.
No, Julio's a fine start this week.
All right, I love these games. Steelers, Ravens, always exciting, always fun.
I will take the under.
The divisional matchup. Yeah, it's a 42-point over/under, and I'm with you on that. The Ravens are actually 3-point underdogs at home in this game. We have not seen. We've talked about it at length. We have not seen the offense we expected from Pittsburgh. We didn't see any offense at all from Baltimore last week. It was absolutely atrocious. We also saw an unexpectedly large amount of carries for Alex Collins. We saw Javorius Allen kind of, even though the snap count was in Allen's favor by the end of the game, we didn't see the production we hoped for. But that game, I almost, whether it's Watson or Allen or even Macklin, you just kind of throw that game out. I mean, you cannot, that's not a template for the rest of the year. It might keep you on the doubting their offense side of things, but what are you doing with the Baltimore offensive pieces in fantasy? And do you have any confidence anywhere on that roster? Because I don't think I do this week.
I do not. Of the running backs, I would still play Buck Allen because he got the 5 receptions. That's what I'm looking for. I know Terrence West has the touchdown upside of the 3 of them, but I'm not playing West. I'm not playing Collins, and I'm okay. He's not like a fully confident start, but I would play Buck Allen if he's on my roster.
Yeah, Buck Allen and Jeremy Macklin I'm willing to start. Terrence West and Alex Collins I'm just going to keep a look at.
What about Ben Watson, though? I mean, the garbage – the touchdown was absolutely filthy, nasty, disgusting garbage. But you went for it.
Well, you're speaking of garbage time.
Yes. Yeah, it was a garbage time touchdown. But the week before, you saw really high volume. Which Benjamin Watson are you expecting this week?
Watson's also near the top of the league in first down completion, so he has been a go-to for Flacco in those circumstances.
And they did not have very many first downs last week.
I because it's going to be a lower scoring game, in my opinion, I lean on not leaning on Ben Watson this week.
You lean on not leaning on him.
Yeah.
That's genius.
I'm like floating.
Genius. All right. Le'Veon Bell, here's an interesting stat for you. He's been targeted 17 total times. That's 9th most at the running back position. Lev Bell, David Johnson, they fell in that kind of you count as 2 category because of their passing game involvement. Now, I kind of want to get into this because depending on your answer, it may affect how you view Lev Bell rest of the year. And we all love Lev Bell. We all made him a top 3 pick if we had to redraft running backs today. But if his targets stay at that level, is that because of, healthy weapons? Martavis is there. You have Juju Smith-Schuster caught a touchdown. You had, other weapons for Big Ben, or is this just anomalous in the first 3 weeks getting back into the flow?
Well, he's 9th compared to running backs, but he's 6, 4, 7. I mean, that's an absolute fantastic target. That's
is that target or is that reception?
Those are targets. So, his receptions are 3, 4, 6. I mean, that's still fantastic. A 6, 4, 7 target count. That's great if you're trying to play a passing down guy like Theo Riddick or Gio or Buck Allen. I'm happy with those targets. And then you add on for Lev Bell that he will rush the ball at least 10 times. And then you have those games like week 2, 27 rushing attempts. Now, the efficiency has not been there for Le'Veon Bell, but he skipped everything. He skipped preseason training camp. Still got to get in the flow of things. So my confidence level with Le'Veon Bell is still very high. The usage is still where I want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a relative thing is the question. It's not a matter of you talking me into Le'Veon Bell as a player. Last year, 7.8 targets a game during his games. This year, it's 5.6. So it's relative to what Le'Veon Bell has been is my question, not whether or not he's a good player.
Okay, but I guess I'm not understanding what you're questioning. What are you questioning about Le'Veon Bell?
I'm questioning whether he is
a top 3?
Yeah, whether this is a trend that's going to continue, therefore making him not as valuable as he was last year.
I don't think it's a trend that's going to continue. I think their utilization of Le'Veon Bell is as good as any running back in the league, and his volume will come to form. I mean, they gave him 27 rushing attempts against Minnesota, and game script this last week in Chicago kind of changed things. Le'Veon Bell is usually about a point or two better on his road splits, especially the rushing touchdowns. They tend to come more on the road than at home. So I love him this week. I still think he's top 3 for sure.
Martavis Bryant, confidence level starting him. I don't have it.
Not on the road.
Okay,
especially against Baltimore.
Let's move on to the Bengals and the Browns, okay? Bengals-Browns matchup in Cleveland. Browns only 3-point dogs in this one. Kind of interesting to me. 41-point over-under, also not expecting a high-scoring game. No quarterback in the NFL is turning the ball over more than Deshaun Kaiser.
Good for you, Kaiser.
By a lot. And therefore, we like the Cincinnati Bengals as a defensive play this week. Bengals are 4th best in the league right now against the pass. They've struggled against the run, which is interesting because the Browns have struggled to run. Crowell in the bottom 5 in yards per carry right now in qualified running backs. So a lot of questions. I think there are a lot of questions in this game. You're starting A.J. Green.
Yep.
And the questions begin there. I think
fair.
Andy Dalton.
Yep, I'm fine starting Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would. I'm okay with it, but I mean, you're talking that he's probably in my mid quarterback 2s, which means I prefer other streaming guys.
I'm definitely not saying that he's a must start by any means, but he is a startable, streamable quarterback. So far this year, the Browns have given up 5 touchdowns to the quarterback already in 3 games, and Andy Dalton looked much better last week. I think they'll
still not great.
No, still not great, but it's the Browns. So I think he is a streamable, safe option.
Isaiah Crowell?
That's the biggest question here for sure.
I don't think I would. I guess based on your roster, you probably have to play him, but I have no confidence right now in Crowell.
I have a little bit more confidence in you, but I don't feel good about it. I mean,
he's getting season Crowell Abdullah.
I think I would go Abdullah. And I'm the anti-Abdullah guy.
Yeah. I mean,
they're both getting the same amount of touches a game, basically. I mean, you've got Crowell every week. He's gotten double-digit rushing attempts. He's not being as involved in the passing game this year as he was last year, which hurts him. I don't think Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's defense is really good, and this probably isn't the week where I want to test Isaiah Crowell. So if you can sit him, I probably would.
Gun to your head, which wide receiver do you start on Cleveland?
I don't know why we got to be so violent about it. But
that's the only way that we can possibly start a running wide receiver on Cleveland.
Kenny.
Yeah.
Kenny Britt.
Kenny Britt at least has done it several years versus Rashad Higgins that did it 1 week.
And, I mean, do recall for the Bengals that Vontaze Burfict is now back.
Right.
So you're talking about they've been poor against the run. Well, they don't have Mr. Nasty in the middle.
No, that makes a big impact. The Los Angeles Rams.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I answered the Kenny Britt question wrong. Gun to my head, what receiver would I choose? It would be Duke Johnson. He's their best receiver.
Okay, well, your head's gone now because that is not a correct answer.
Yeah, he doesn't count. You can't start him in your wide receiver spot.
I'm just saying that's the one I'm still choosing.
The Rams take on the Cowboys in Dallas. Dallas 6.5-point favorites.
6 for 81. He's a startable guy this week.
Defiant till the end.
You darn right.
Jason Moore.
It's coming from you. You're defiant well beyond any of Jason's capabilities.
I gave you a wide receiver.
Yeah.
I did too.
Austin Deucer over there.
It's sweeping the nation.
Terrible.
Awesome.
Just terrible. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Rams, Cowboys, like I said, 6.5-point favorites are the Cowboys, 47.5-point over-under. Look, Jared Goff, thus far, he's leading the league in a ton of categories, or near the top. Let's put it that way. Basically, if you find a category, this is a true statement. If you find a category that Tom Brady is leading, nearby is Jared Goff thus far. Passer rating, yards per completion, taking shots down the field, that's Jared Goff.
Yeah, I mean, there's
is this a Goff mirage?
Of quarterbacks who have started the first 3 games, Jared Goff is the only quarterback that I'm seeing over 10 yards per attempt.
He's got 5 touchdowns, 1 interception on the year, but he's also played a really, powder puff type of schedule. You're talking about he played the Colts week 1, San Francisco this past week. The toughest defense he played was Washington, which is
they gave him a hard time.
Yeah.
So what do we expect from him in this game? Because the Cowboys are definitely not an upper echelon defense.
Yeah.
You have a good offensive line. If you look at the numbers, Goff is having an opportunity behind that offensive line, and if you can control Lawrence I just said Lawrence Timmons, who's the player of the week, Cowboy fan.
Come on, Brooks.
Give me the last name that I'm forgetting.
DeMarcus Lawrence.
There you go.
Oh, wow, yeah, I just flipped his name. DeMarcus Lawrence. Yeah. If you can contain him on the outside, defensive player of the week, then I think Goff will have an opportunity in this game. Watkins was limited in practice.
Is Watkins – it's only been 1 game. You're talking 2 really bad games, 1 monster game. Are you auto-starting Sammy Watkins if he's cleared?
I'm going to say yes, and this is why. 1, the clearance is happening because he played on Thursday, and he's already limited in practice. So I'm very confident that he'll be active in this game. We'll obviously give you more information tomorrow based on his practice today. The targets last week, it wasn't like those were through the roof. He had 7 targets. He caught 6 of them. That's where the 2 touchdowns came from. But I'm going to say yes because this was a player that is acclimating to a brand-new system with a brand-new quarterback and easing his way in. And because they have scored as many points as they have, and because Sean McVay knows things that Jeff Fisher never has known, which is the old get the ball to your better player strategy. It's one of the top new strategies sweeping the nation. This is one that the Bill Lazor of the Cincinnati Bengals employed last week. He gave it to his best players, and then they started winning. I am confident enough to play Sammy Watkins. I love you.
Or
yeah,
are you
that's
just saying in your flex?
No, that's what's going on in my brain right now.
Right.
I'm trying to think of flex versus 2 situations, decisions. I'd play him over Crabtree against Denver.
What about Cooper?
I'd play him over Cooper against Denver.
Right.
Yeah, what do you guys think about Watkins this week and moving forward? Can he ascend in this offense that's putting up points?
Yeah, he's got the talent. I mean, in the offseason, he would have probably been one of my 3 guys if he stayed in Buffalo, where he was leading the target share, because his talent is as good as anyone in the league, and he's shown that. The question to me has always been the target share in this offense. He's, they're still going to throw to Cooper Kupp. They're still going to throw to Robert Woods.
Sometimes they will.
But it does appear that a rapport is developing, and he is their best player. So I think you can start Sammy Watkins. You just don't want to have an expectation of last week, 2 of his 6 passes were a touchdown, and that's just not going to be on the regular. So I would put him as a flex option. I'd play him over both of those Oakland receivers going up to Denver.
Yeah, it's a strong point about the target share. If you look through 3 games, he's only getting 16% of his team's targets. You compare that to a guy like,
it's very low.
Like Sammy Watkins from last year.
Yeah, or LaShawn McCoy this year, 25% of his team's targets, even as the running back position. I think this is the get-right game for Ezekiel Elliott. The Rams have allowed the most rushing.
He was still pretty solid last week, but you're saying
he didn't look.
Here's what I mean. Right now, he's near the bottom in terms of touchdowns per attempt, right? I just talked about what I think is 1 in 10 right now for Devonta Freeman. When he rushes the ball, he's scoring. Ezekiel Elliott hasn't been scoring, and this is a game where the Rams have allowed the most rushing touchdowns, 6 total this year. Ezekiel Elliott got it going in the back half of the game. They're at home. the equation here seems to be, look, let's beat the Rams on the ground. They're the 29th best team against the rush. You saw Carlos Hyde have success. I think this is the game that validates Ezekiel Elliott as that top-tier, top-echelon guy you wanted on your fantasy roster.
I think he's going to have a monster game. I like the three big players a lot from Dallas this week. I love Dak, I love Zeke, and I love Des Bryant. And I think that they are going to have.
Why don't you marry them?
I would if I could, but you can't marry three people, dummy.
Yeah, thanks.
But so I'm starting all three of those guys with full confidence. The question is Jason Witten. I mean, you saw two huge games, and then poof, like an old man.
No, that's the legal requirement for tight ends this year for fantasy football.
Is two and then one off?
If you've had a couple good games, they come to you and they snip off a finger and they say you don't get.
Sorry, son, this is your time.
This is your time. Look, we knew that wasn't sustainable. There's a couple things you've learned about Jason Witten. If the Cowboys are losing, Jason Witten will rack up targets, and Jason Witten doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. Those are the two things that have persisted throughout his career. So we knew that the touchdown totals weren't going to stay there. I don't think we saw the targets going down to where they were against Arizona, but he's a middle-of-the-road guy. He's a startable tight end.
Yeah, especially in PPR leagues where, kind of like what you're saying, you might not get the touchdown, but you could end up with 8 receptions and have a fine outing out of the tight end. It really comes down to Jared Goff, whether he's able to move the ball on Dallas. Because if he can score, then Jason Witten will be needed.
I mean, let me put it this way: I'm taking the over.
Oh,
the 47.5 point over. And you know what? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go beyond that.
Oh, what? No.
Oh, sorry, Brooks.
Andy's almost upset of the week.
What is Mr. Rams over here? He's all about that life.
Have you ever seen Aaron Donald play football?
He's very good.
He's really good.
Son of bum.
No. Yeah, he's not the son of bum. Their defense hasn't been son of bum worthy, but just get ready. Just get ready for the almost upset of the week. The Titans take on the Texans in a Titans-Texans battle.
Ooh.
The Texans are 1.5 point underdogs at home, 44 point over under. I'm curious. Who'd you start on the Tennessee side outside of DeMarco Murray?
Marcus Mariota. And we will talk about that in a minute.
Oh,
because I am confident in Mariota this week, so we'll wait on that one.
That only means one thing. He's your boom kicker of the week.
Yeah, he's a good kicker.
The way you're picking positions lately wouldn't surprise me. Who's the running back? Jason, we need a wide receiver. Yeah, but I'll give you the running back.
Ryan Suckup.
Ryan Suckup. All right. By the way, Ryan Suckup, special teams player of the week.
Ooh.
Marcus Mariota. Okay, Jason likes him. He's going to talk about him in his start of the week. Eric Decker, we talked about him being cut-worthy. You're stuck with the pass catchers right now in Tennessee. You can't pick one that will necessarily perform for you. That's a problem. Delanie Walker, he's obviously a start at the tight end position. And I think we can move on to the Texans because I have some questions for you. So, Deshaun.
I was going to say, Rashard Matthews, 2 of the 3 weeks has been very solid. 70 yards week 1, 87 and a score last week. He stole my Eric Decker dreams.
So would you flex him?
I'm okay with it.
21st ranked wide receiver through 3 weeks. I mean, that's a solid enough argument, especially with Corey Davis being ruled out. Eric Decker, you're not high on anymore, so maybe you're high on Matthews.
I like Ryan Matthews.
Rashard
Matthews, always have, but I'm not as down on Decker as you two seem to be.
I'm not down on Decker. I just think that at this point, you can cut him.
I've been fading Decker since the trade.
Yeah, you have.
So I'm not going to be rising on him anytime soon. Deshaun Watson, is he startable in this game against the Titans? The Titans right now, I think we expected their defense to be a little better than they have been. I mean, 26th against the pass, 16th against the run. They've allowed 2.3 touchdown passes per game, which is second worst in the NFL. Watson impressed me last week. What do we think?
I wouldn't. I know it was a great game against the Patriots, but it's hard to get the visions of him being absolutely shut down by the Bengals out of you. I know fantasy-wise he was fine because he ripped off a 50-yard touchdown run, but I'm
300 yards last week?
I still don't have Watson confidence.
Yeah, I
8 for 41 on the ground last week.
The way that I see
those
it,
numbers sound pretty good.
the way that I see it is he's probably a streamable option because he runs. And if what I think is going to happen in this game, I would take the over in this game. If that happens,
then he has to be stream-worthy. If you're taking the over,
that's what I'm saying.
Then Watson's probably
he would be stream-worthy. But I don't yet have the confidence to actually put him in my lineup because he is still a rookie. His college tape showed some flaws. We see a lot of times when rookie quarterbacks come out, once there's a game, 2 games of tape on him, it's a little bit easier to play to what their strengths are. Okay, this is his tendency a little bit more. So I would still hold off doing it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up with a decent game.
I mean, he's
I've got a perfect water bet for you, Jason, because I have enough confidence in Deshaun Watson this week to water bet you. Versus Mariota.
Oh, what? Sign me up.
Water bet.
I'm expecting tough sledding for Tennessee in this game against Houston. So we're in opposition over your start of the week. I think this game being in Houston, I think it's gonna be a fun water bet. Deshaun Watson and Marcus Mariota. All right, we need to move down the line here to a game that doesn't have a line. The Lions at the Vikings. Still undetermined what the quarterback situation is going to be for Minnesota. Matthew Stafford has been good so far. Amir Abdullah, he's been mediocre. Gets the carries, hasn't broken anything off, hasn't scored. Not sure that's going to change this week. In fact, the Vikings are so good against the run, I would be hesitant to start Amir Abdullah if I had any other option.
I don't blame you.
Really like Golden Tate. The Vikings have not been good against the pass. And Eric Ebron. What do you think about Ebron so far?
He looks like Eric Ebron.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's been unfortunate. I'm disappointed.
The one thing I will say for Eric Ebron is his home road splits are better on the road. I don't know if maybe because he's been such a bust in the expectations of Detroit fans, it gets in his head at home. He had those drops last week. He does not play that good at home. And the Vikings have given up 2 touchdowns so far on the year to tight end. So Eric Ebron, nobody's excited to play him right now. But I don't think this is a terrible matchup, as bad as it is for the running backs for Detroit, because Minnesota's run D is fantastic, especially in Minnesota.
What about the other side of the ball?
I wanted to say, I know that the Vikings numbers are bad overall when you say 27th allowing yards. I'm not playing Marvin Jones at all. Xavier Rhodes shuts down number 1 wide receivers. I mean, you had week 1, Michael Thomas. Antonio Brown was held to a line that you don't expect from him, and then Evans last week. So it just.
But is Marvin Jones the number 1 that'll be covered? I mean, I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying. I would not play Marvin Jones.
No, he's asking whether that's really where Jones is going to end up. Like Patrick Peterson ended up on Golden Tate,
right?
In Arizona.
Okay,
so
I see what you mean. Yeah, I don't expect if Tate is going to stay inside, I don't expect Rhodes to follow him there.
Okay, and the other side of the ball. Who do we expect to start in Minnesota?
I'm playing everyone.
Well, I guess I mean at the quarterback position.
I expect Case Keenum to play.
Okay.
I expect him to play, and because it's a home game, and I'm not buying in. I know Andy likes the Lions defense because they have been making plays. It's hard to argue against what they have done. But I think that at home, Case Keenum is good enough to get things done because of Stephon Diggs, because of Adam Thielen, even Kyle Rudolph, which it wasn't a great game. He's still one of those, guys that has the touchdown upside every week. But I have the confidence to play Diggs and Thielen.
They're both in the top 10 in terms of total receptions on the year so far. So they've been a great tandem.
Do you agree with that, or was only one game?
I've already said you can't sit Diggs.
Okay.
So Diggs is an auto start.
Yeah, it's a little hard to chase what happened last week. We can't possibly expect Case Keenum to do that again just because he's at home. But it's a good offense. I mean, it really is. The offensive line is improved. The rookie running back is helping. Great receivers. And Kyle Rudolph, I think, has a great matchup here.
It's interesting
at home against the Lions.
So you aren't afraid of what happened last week with Kyle Rudolph?
I am not.
Okay.
As we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Starts of the week.
All right, starts of the week for week number 4. Let's kick it off with the tight end position. Let's go. Let's go backwards here. Jared Cook versus Denver is my start of the week. You have a banged up Crabtree, an underwhelming Cooper right now, and Denver. They know how to guard the wide receiver, but what they don't know how to defend is the tight end position thus far. The last 2 weeks, they gave up a touchdown to both Witten and Clay, and right now they're 25th in the league in terms of how many points they give up to the tight end position. So it seems like a good mix here for Jared Cook.
I'll jump in here. Mine's Ryan Griffin.
I love
it. I guess so that speaks to Andy's confidence in Deshaun Watson. Last week, Jimmy Graham finally came to life against Tennessee, had a great stat line, got a really big hug on one of the plays. And last week, Ryan Griffin, 5 for 61 and a touchdown against the Patriots. He played 61 of 71 snaps. So Ryan Griffin from the Houston Texans, I mean, he's the go-to tight end. I mean, Fedorowicz is hurt. Ryan Griffin has done these things in the past. He's a good pass catcher. He's my star. I am personally starting him in many of my leagues.
And I'm going with the aforementioned Kyle Rudolph. People might be dropping him in certain leagues.
Nonsense.
And I agree. That's nonsense. He's a talented player on what we just described as a good offense with a lot of weapons. And the matchup against the Lions, it might look a little worrisome if you just look at the season totals, but they played Atlanta that hasn't really used the tight end, and Arizona, Jermaine Gresham is not a huge weapon. When they played the New York Giants, they gave up over 100 yards and a touchdown. That was where Evan Ingram had the great game. I think Kyle Rudolph can sneak in a touchdown in this game.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to see what happens with Rudolph the rest of the season because they've definitely Cook has really affected that offense. So, yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead. By the way, honorable mention, maybe just a mention in general. I think people should be taking a cursory look at signing Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
Yes.
I think he's going to have a good week this week against Jacksonville. Last week, the leading target and reception receiver of any kind on the Jets in that impressive home win. He's worth a peek-see.
Absolutely.
All right, wide receiver. I'm going with Golden Tate against Minnesota. Look, Minnesota's given up 23, 41, and 43 points to fantasy wide receivers. Now, Mike is right. Xavier Rhodes knows how to shut down the number one guy, but the rest of the team has given it up. I mean, they don't give it up on the ground, and now you mix in an offense that passes 67% of the time. That's third most in the NFL. That's just a recipe for we're passing 87% of the time against this defense. Golden Tate is always guaranteed a number of targets, and so I think you're just going to see a run through the air philosophy, and Golden Tate plays that role in Detroit. So I think he's a really safe play against Minnesota.
And I just want the update because we misspoke. The expectation was that Patrick Peterson was going to. The report was he'll shadow Golden Tate, but he didn't. He played the majority of his snaps against Marvin Jones, he had the touchdown, but other than that, Marvin Jones did nothing. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Sure. So for my wide receiver start of the week, and this is something where I'm putting my fantasy where my mouth is, I am starting him.
Your fantasy?
My fantasy football.
That could go terribly.
But it's gone
Please
great.
go in the other room.
I'm going with Marqise Lee, the wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars, because he has been the clear number one receiver. Now, fantasy purposes, Allen Hurns has caught the touchdowns, but if you look at routes run, snaps, targets, every statistic says that Marqise Lee is
for fantasy points
is the number one. Well, even there, I mean, last week
you
you had
highest target share in the NFL at the wide receiver position, right behind Evans and Julio Jones, right ahead of Tyreek Hill and T.Y. Hilton.
Exactly. Thank you. And in week one, he
You're welcome.
He was not involved at all. 0 catches, 0 receptions. Once they had to go back and practice without Allen Robinson and figure out, okay, who's our number one? He comes in 7 for 76. Last week, 4 for 65. And this week, he gets the New York Jets. I think they'll be able to throw the ball. And you had 2 red zone targets with Marqise Lee last week, one of which really almost scored. And then after that is when Hurns got his touchdown. I think Marqise Lee is a safe floor with a decent ceiling.
For a man who made Dalvin Cook his start of the week last week, you are going quite bold,
it's bold
with Rudolph and Lee thus far. I like it.
And bolder with Mariota, who say you would play someone else?
I don't like him. So we'll Mike, who's your wide receiver?
I'm going with a Sir Mix-a-Lot double up here. The Magic Minuteman, DeVante Parker.
The Magic Minuteman. the point of Minuteman, the way he was.
Getting you an entire week's worth of value in that last minute. He's talented. He's gonna get targeted from Jay Cutler. It's against the Saints. I'm buying into the matchup, and I'm buying into DeVante Parker again.
Okay. I did the math. If he can replicate, keep pace with that final drive throughout the whole season, he'll put up about 14,400 fantasy points. So that's good news. If he can just –
I'll take 50% of that.
My running back start of the week is Chris Carson. I mentioned it before. Prosise is banged up, and he's the only one that took snaps away from Carson last week. Carson got in to the end zone through the air. It's his backfield, and he plays Indianapolis. So that's just juicy. And I think you will have tough decisions. I think there will be those out there because of where you picked up Carson. You're saying Carson or Crowell, Carson or Abdullah, Carson or some of these struggling starters that you drafted to be a starter. And I'd play Carson over all of them.
Chris Carson or Jacquizz Rodgers?
Chris Carson.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. I'm gonna go with Christian McCaffrey this week. The Carolina Panthers. Obviously, Cam Newton's been told we don't want you to run as much. Kelvin Benjamin is banged up, and they're playing the Patriots in Foxborough. This is a high over/under. The Patriots are going to put up points, and you're going to have a lot of opportunity for the dump-off screens that the Patriots so far have not been able to really handle. They have not done a good job guarding that. And if Christian McCaffrey has the opportunity to he had 9 receptions for 100 yards last week, and I think this is a matchup where he could break something, get in the end zone, and I think he's a great start.
Now I'm going with Joey Mixon.
Please.
I'm going Joey Mixon. And
please.
Part of these starts, I'm saying these are starts that I have confidence in, and I am making these starts. In the leagues I have Joe Mixon. He's been on my bench waiting to see. And I think it's time.
Hibernating.
He's just been sleeping. He ate a big lunch.
Yes.
And he had to be prepared for this game against the Browns. This is the confidence start for Joe Mixon. This is the week where you thought you could do it last week, but
you could, by the way. I mean, you could start him last week. He was start worthy.
Yeah. I'm saying his end stat line, but you weren't sure. All signs and arrows pointed to with the coordinator change that Joe Mixon was going to get the ball more, but I wasn't confident playing him. This is the week where I'm unleashing Joe Mixon on my starting roster, and I actually feel good about it.
Well, I'm starting his teammate at the quarterback position, and I don't feel good about it because it's hard to. Red regrets coming back. Andy Dalton, I don't like saying the name out loud.
Careful. Yeah, if you say it 3 times, he actually appears.
But I sure like him against Cleveland. Look, this is a game that
he throws a ball way over your head.
I think that this is a game where Joe Mixon earns him some of them free yards out of the backfield. A big play. Cleveland's been so susceptible. They do not put pressure on the quarterback. They're the 3rd worst in the league on putting pressure and hurries on the quarterback. That's been an area of struggle for Andy Dalton where he feels like he has to get the ball out of his hand too quickly because the offensive line is coming together still. This is their, if they lose this game in Cleveland, the wheels have fallen off of the Bengals season in its entirety. So there's too much on the line. We saw too much last week with Bill Lazor, an improved Andy Dalton. I think you can start him this week.
Oof.
But don't take my word for it.
All right, before I let Jason shut it down, I'm going to throw mine out. It's Dak Prescott, and you may think, well, I'm playing Dak every week, but he's at home. He gets the Rams. Dak is in my top 5 this week. I've said I love the big 3 from Dallas, and I love them this week. I think that all 3 of them can have a monster game against the son of Bum himself. If the 49ers can put up points, I expect the Dallas Cowboys at home to easily be able to put up points. So I love Dak this week.
And I'm going to continue living on the edge with my starts.
Yeah, you are.
I've dug deeper, going a little risky this week. But I'm going with Marcus Mariota, and clearly it's a a pick that not everybody would agree with, since Andy and I have a water bet. He is not confident in Marcus Mariota.
I think you guys should also do Mariota versus Andy Dalton.
Well, no, because I also like Andy Dalton this week. Here's the thing.
Come on.
Here's the thing with Marcus Mariota.
You're
going on the road to Houston, a bad matchup. So I think a lot of people are going to sit him. And, I think the only time he's played Houston, he had a terrible game. The thing is I don't think their defense is as good this week as it has been before. And you saw that last week. Obviously, Tom Brady, okay, he's the GOAT, but he still threw for 378 yards and 5 touchdowns. That still happened against this defense. And the thing is this defense lost A.J. Bouye last year, their shutdown top corner, and they were able to do that because they had Kevin Johnson, who went out last game, and I don't expect to play this week. They also are missing Brian Cushing. So 3 of their 5 best players are gone on the defensive side of the ball.
Would you – okay. I was just my interesting puzzled look on my face was referring to AJ Bouye as one of their top 5 players. When
from last year.
He has been gone.
Yes, I'm saying. Well, he's been gone for these 3 games, and right now over the 3 games, I think the Texans are averaging the 25th worst score against quarterbacks. So. I believe. Look, I'm not saying Mariota is going to. This isn't like you're Dak, right? Dak is safe. Everyone's playing him. You're saying Dak is going to have a phenomenal game. I'm simply saying Marcus Mariota in what appears to be a tough matchup. I think you can still start.
All right.
Jason Moore's ironclad, locked and loaded, 100% guaranteed boom boom kicker of the week.
At home, big score, big Vegas line, great kicker. I'm going Dan Bailey.
Oh, there it is.
Thanks, Jay.
That's it.
Thanks a lot. That is it for today's episode. We'll be back with more matchups tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, subscribing, listening. We appreciate it, all your support, and we will catch you soon. Make sure you check out draft.com/ballers if you want to play with us this week, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.